Hi, everyone. Welcome to our keynote conversation today, Getting Unstuck, as part of Wondermind's very first Mental Fitness Summit. I'm Minaa B, and this session will be all about getting unstuck and managing your mental health when experiencing shifts in life. Joining me for this conversation today is Wondermind co founders Mandy Teefey and Selena Gomez. So let's get started. Mandy and Selena, you've both had incredible careers, but I'm sure it hasn't always been smooth sailing from one project to the next. So, can either of you think of a time when you felt completely stuck and had no idea what to do next? What was that like for you?
I think in any time that you're making like a decision that could be detrimental to your future, like the bigger it gets, the more I think paralyzing making that decision becomes. And it's very frightening, but what I've kind of learned is that you deep down inside will know if you have that gut feeling and that gut check and it feels authentic to you, then you can that to me has always been key, and what helps me get unstuck is like, is this really something I would do? And is it self-serving, or is it able, or am I able to give back by doing something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of those thoughts, and I think, I guess it's as recent as last night. I was in bed and I couldn't fall asleep till about 4, and it was just because my mind was simply racing, and I just kept saying over and over again, like, this will pass, just let it go through your body, and it'll go away. And of course, eventually I fell asleep, but I think it's not, it's an everyday experience. I think people feel um, there's choices, there's the way you speak to people, there's the way you speak to yourself. It's all a daily practice, I think.
I love those grounding techniques that you just shared, really that center mindfulness and just how to kind of get out of your head. Because sometimes when you are feeling stuck, we kind of sometimes lean on the past or we start thinking about the future and it just takes away from the present. And the both of you kind of touched on this already, but to go a little deeper, when you are feeling stuck or unmotivated, what are some of the things that you've tried to do to get your momentum back?
Oh boy. Um, I guess some days it's just really hard. Um, I find personally for me being active, not working out because I don't do that enough. I should, because it's great for your mental health. But I find that when I'm putting myself around safe people or giving back or being there for a friend and who's going through something, I always find community. And I don't have a lot of people in my life, so I know who my inner circle is. And I have to talk things out, and I have a therapist too, but it's also nice to have people around you that will just listen to you, and there is a freedom of letting go of whatever it is that's keeping you stuck in that lump in your throat.
Yeah, I try to, I've started this exercise that I created completely on my own, so Mina, tell me if it's, like, ridiculous or not, but, I tend to write things down that I didn't think was gonna work out in the past, and then it did work out. So I have a list that I keep going, and I try to, like, review that when I feel like I'm stuck, and I'm just like, 'cause usually when I'm stuck, and I'm motivated, it's because there's so much going on that I've gotta pull myself out of it to really understand what's going on and to assess the situation. So for me, keeping that ongoing list is an easy resource for me.
It's like something to look back to and to reflect on as a way to, again, keep yourself grounded. So I really like that you shared those tools, Mandy. And then Selena, I also love that what you just described when you talked about community and leaning on support is the act of co-regulation. And sometimes when we're feeling unmotivated and we're feeling stuck, that could be that our nervous system is just so overwhelmed that we need to rely on other people's nervous system to help regulate our own. And when you pair that with the practices Mandy talked about, which is self regulation, you can see a major shift, and how you move through life. And so I really love those tools that you both are sharing. As a mental health professional, one of the things that we like to do is guide people back to their value systems, right? Which are the things that we tend to prioritize in life. And so I'm curious to know for the both of you, what are some of your core values that you refer back to when you do feel uncertain or feel stuck?
I still have days where I need my mom, like my mommy. And then there are also moments for me that I just allow myself to like be vulnerable and cry and just talk it out. And it doesn't mean that the problem goes away necessarily. It's I'm a full believer in CBT and DBT work, and all of those tips have been profoundly helpful for me. And I think I just try to make myself better. But my sorry, I didn't even answer the question. My morals and everything is my family first and foremost, my health, um, and having a family. I don't know. I think I tried to think of all the wonderful things that could happen.
Hmm.
I don't know. That one's pretty tricky for me. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Yeah, I like I said a little bit earlier, um, saying true to myself and being authentic is definitely the first thing that comes to my mind. And if I would, if I wouldn't do it to a friend, or if I wouldn't do it to a loved one, then I don't allow it to happen to myself. So it's definitely, I always just authenticity is a big deal for me, and that's kinda what the component is. And I also always want to be of some kind of, like, I don't want everything I do to be self-serving, because then it weighs heavy on me. I want to be able to share whatever I have with whoever like, needs it, or I can give it to.
Mm. I think that, what you both are speaking to can be really important for listeners because it goes back to that radical acceptance piece. That's like you said, sometimes life is just hard. Sometimes we wake up and we're having a really bad day. And we need to go back to the things that we feel grateful for. We need to rely on our community. And sometimes the sad truth is we just have to honor that icky feeling that's coming up for us and just admit today I'm not having a good day. And this is the space that I'm in. Mom, can you hold me right now? Because today's not a good day. Or leaning on your community and your support system instead of trying to always turn every negative emotion into something positive versus expressing and just honoring. Listen, this is where I'm at today. So, how can you support me? Can you provide me with a psychologically safe space? Can you listen? Can you relate to this? But can you just be with me in the thick of it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people um, are scared of that. For me personally, for years, I tend to isolate. And that would, there are moments, of course, where you need to be on your own and feel things. But for years, I would just block as much. Like, I didn't accept help. I just, I wouldn't. And I found complete freedom in sharing everything I've been walking through because I know that other people feel that way too. And I hope no one ever looks at me and thinks, oh, her life is perfect, because that's just simply not true. I'm very grateful and I have a very blessed life. But we're all humans and feelings are very real, and I think it definitely needs to be talked about, and we need to educate people more about it.
Yeah. You know, what you spoke on isolation, that's kind of where I want to go to next. So I'm happy you brought it up because it can be very tempting to isolate and to withdraw and to push people away when we're feeling stuck, unmotivated, anxious, overwhelmed, even afraid. And so, for the both of you, I'm curious to know, what is the best advice you've ever gotten when you were struggling with what's next, as well as with facing uncertainty?
I think sometimes just saying okay to someone, simply saying, can I just come and be there for you? And before I could combat that with a little anger and be like, no, I'm fine, I don't. And then it's the friend that flew in and shows up for me whether I wanted it or not. And it's like, I think that is something that's been really helpful. So that's why I always go back to community, because you are who you surround yourself with. And I think it is very important for you to feel safe in whatever community you build. And it's hard. And I actually posted this quote yesterday because I needed to personally hear it. So I thought maybe someone else would want to hear it as well. But it says, maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so that you can be who you are meant to be in the first place. And that really struck home for me. I try to look at good things as well.
Yeah. That was a great
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that quote. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. Um, w One time well, I don't not one time. That I sometimes, whenever I am feeling, um, unmotivated or unsure of who I am and if I'm doing the right things, I always try to call someone that, isn't necessarily who I would lean into for advice, or not because that they don't have it. It's just someone that I just wanna have a conversation with, and we're always asking people, "What is so good about me? What is this? What is this?" Because you always need that affirmation. I have a conversation that I don't think any of you guys have gotten it yet, but maybe you'll get the phone call one day of, what do I do that hinders my growth from other to hear other people's perspective from the outside? Because what I may see as protection and defense, it could be something that is hindering. And one time, one of the answers was, they go, "You always look for the bad first." And ever since they've said that, I reevaluate my answers. Just like one time, I evaluate, I'm like, "Okay, this is my instinct. Is my instinct leading me right?" And then I kind of evaluate it if it's a big thing, not every decision, but, but I utilize that, and I sometimes find that you get a lot of really helpful insight on who you are when you ask people questions that they're not used to. And it's because not everything is great about us, and we all have things to work on, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how we all become better people.
Mm. I love that so much because I always tell people, remember that you bring your full self to community. And so when you are in deep judgment and in deep criticism, there's a possibility that you bring that to your community, and you can be projecting that into community. And I think there's so much courage in what you're saying, Mandy, to be able to be that community member who says, "Can you put a mirror up for me and just let me know, what are my weaknesses right now? And what are the things that I can be doing to be a better person? But when I am a better person, I'm also a better community member." And so I really love that perspective because I think a lot of people need to hear it because I think sometimes we take things personally, right? And I'm just curious to know how you all navigate not taking things deeply personally when it comes to your own growth and trying to get unstuck.
Oh boy, I've had such a wild experience with social media. And I honestly think that is a part of affecting your mental health. Whether, let's say, all you follow is puppy accounts, you're bound to see something that may trigger you, that makes you feel less than, not good enough. And I try my hardest to take these breaks, but equally, I've had to stop trying to defend myself because I should not be apologetic for being honest, for saying I'm not good. And that's not nice what you said. And, my mom has always just taught me, that the noise is going to be there constantly, but it's just that what you're saying, it's about finding that moment where I actually physically have to say, no, I'm a good person. I'm kind. I work really hard and I'm grateful and I love, you know, s- all the little things in life, and I need that reminder. But it's I'm not gonna lie, it kind of hurts, I'm definitely not one of the people that can just, kind of ignore it. It's just too and I'm just speaking on my generation's behalf because it's wild how inhumane people can be with their words and things they would probably never say in person either. But it just sometimes hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you
then
for
mama
sharing
gets
that.
mad.
You said a mom gets mad?
And then mama gets mad.
Tell her mama bear because she gets very.
Which is the natural instinct, right? And I think you're speaking to something that so many people can relate to. This feeling of when people are projecting their own hurt and pain and trying to cause hurt and pain onto others. And I always say traumatized bodies have the potential to traumatize other bodies. And so we do have to be very mindful of the ways that we show up as community members because there's someone else on the other side. And I'm really happy that you're speaking to that because it's important for us to be reminded that we're interacting with human beings here. And their lives are valuable, and this has been so enlightening in so many ways. And I don't want to be greedy with your time because I know listeners have questions for you all. So I'm going to shift gears here really quickly to share some questions that actually came in from our audience. And so one of the questions is that I just graduated college and feel so overwhelmed and unmotivated right now. Do you have any tips for figuring out what you should do next?
My advice is, and I actually learned this from my 11-year-old sister. She is so true to who she is, and she doesn't try to be anything she is not. And when I see the innocence of a child, it is that place of going back to when you were that age, and kind of reflecting a little bit on that. But my best advice would be, it's okay that you don't have everything figured out quite yet. Um, I feel like that's a part of growing up, is changes and seasons, and even sometimes the greatest things happening, like congratulations and you're going to college and that's awesome. I wish I did badly, but but I feel like those are the positives of what happens, but sometimes really good things can equally unmotivate you. You could be like, this is too much. I don't know how to handle this. I want to just get away from it as much as possible. And just reminding yourself that, look, you've already made it that far. That's something that you should be proud of. And the rest, is going to be a little worrisome, but all right, I'm talking too much. I just believe in people. I fully, wholeheartedly believe that people are good, and that there's always something someone's walking through. So that's why I try my hardest to ask anyone how their day is and not just how are you? And it's like, well, your heart good, your mind good, and yeah. But I'm sorry you feel overwhelmed. I've felt that many times.
Mm,
I always try to say, trust your pace. Just trust the pace that you're at, and once you do that, it'll fall in line.
I love that. Another question that came in from our audience is, I'm 50 and I have the urge to totally recreate myself in my career. What advice do you have for someone starting over?
Go get it, girl. Better late than never, it doesn't matter when. I am so impressed with people who are living their life. I know my friends' grandparents are, in their early 80s, and they just try to live authentically to who you are. I think the older you get, the more you want that freedom. And I would hopefully say, be inspired by that and absolutely do what makes you feel happy. Um, Even if that may make others uncomfortable or boundaries are needing to be set, it's truly impactful to just understand that you everyone deserves a second chance, third chance. To me, everything, it's like no one's going to be perfect, but yeah, I want to be my full authentic self when I'm older, and it's gonna be fun. I'm still too sensitive now, but
I actually have create yourself tattooed on the back of my ankles. So on one side
Mm,
it says create and the other yourself. And I truly believe that. And guess what? Like whether it's your second or your third or your fourth chapter, you might like it better. So why not try? You don't get to go backwards. You go forward. So definitely do it and enjoy every minute of it.
I love that. Enjoy every moment of your life, regardless of your age, is the message I hear from the both of you. So that's really awesome. Now we have one more question that came in, which is, uncertainty is my enemy and it makes me want to hide in bed. I mean, I'm sure so many of us can relate. How do you deal when you're feeling anxious about the future?
First, I crawl in bed and then cover my head up and then just lay there in silence. And then I slowly turn on my favorite show, which could be Schitt's Creek at the moment, and just kind of veg out. And then I give myself a time. So if I look at the clock and it says it's like 1:42, I'm like at 1:44, I'm getting up and I'm gonna go do something. Or at 1:44, I'm gonna open a book and turn off the TV. So I try to give myself baby steps to kind of keep going. But yes, always immediately I go straight to the bed and do the to the bed rotting for a couple of minutes. Sometimes it has been a day, but I think if you learn to listen to your body will give you what you need and it'll give you the motivation. And it's like, because your mind can mess with that, but if your body is wanting to go, then I think being able to tune into both of those vessels is really important.
yeah, I am a very anxious person. And And again, I'm going to go back to even when good things are happening. Um, it's kind of like doomsday. And I think having a positive conversation with yourself, even if that sounds weird, it's really impactful. Like before I step out of the car and there's going to be lots of noise and stuff, if that's the case, I'm not saying that's every day, but I I have to I have to breathe and I have to say all of this is a gift, and I may not be in the mood for this, and every time I end up seeing someone and making them smile always just makes my day, no matter how I'm feeling. But yeah, I actually released a documentary. Um, I'm a little bit different than my mom because I spent too much time in my bedroom that I actually don't even sleep in my bedroom anymore because I associate it with such a really dark time. Now, taking a moment to feel good for yourself is 1000% important as well. Um, but I think that I try to just, even if it's just getting in the car, going on a drive, listening to music or songs that inspire you, motivate you. Um, Yeah, but I mean, that pains me to hear people going through that because being anxious is so debilitating sometimes. And yeah, I didn't want to leave my bed for years, and part of it is I wasn't doing the work, and you have to believe in yourself and do the work that will truly enlighten you a little bit. Even if that is watching a show for 30 minutes, it can be any of those things.
I really love the honesty and the transparency from the both of you. And what I hear is striking a balance between honoring that I feel anxious right now and maybe I do need to hide under the covers and lounge a bit and watch some Netflix. But then also on the other side is that I do have to take action to manage this feeling. And if it's becoming debilitating, I need to figure out what resources that I need to tap into to help me get clarity. Maybe sometimes uncertainty means I just don't have the answers yet. And so I need to tap into certain resources or tap into my networks to get some sort of care and help. And so I do like the balance you both provided here. And overall, thank you so much for this amazing conversation and just all of the helpful tips that you shared. I also want to thank everyone for tuning in. I truly hope you all enjoyed this session and that it was truly informative for you. Be sure to stick around at this same link for Therapy 101 and subscribe to Wondermind's newsletter for more mental fitness content.